Good evening to one and all. My name is Saurabh, and I'm your host for the PGC Weekly Podcast session today. I would like to start the podcast series by acknowledging and paying my respects to the Bidjigal and Gadigal peoples, the traditional custodians of the lands where each of our UNSW campuses are located, and all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, elders past, present, and emerging, and their communities who have shared and practiced their teachings over thousands of years. We recognize the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's ongoing leadership and contributions, including to business, education, and industry. Today, we have got Mr. Nizar Hoblas as our guest speaker. Nizar is a lecturer at UNSW Business School. He's very active in researching how the design and implementation of advanced information technologies and their associated processes can enable a positive transformation outcome. Nizar also has an interest in the leadership and innovation space at the intersection between technology and social innovations, business and digital transformation, including studying and modeling the rollout of smart everything across all vertical industries for both public, private, and academic sectors. His research aims to identify and rectify the transformation process enabled by the introduction and adoption of advanced information technologies such as the Internet of Things, automation, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and fifth generation mobile system on emerging business models of public-private organization and social structures. Okay, now moving from the speaker, now let's look at the topic of discussion for today, that is digitalization enabling the business survival during and post COVID-19. Also, let me just remind you that this podcast is not just about Mr. Nizar Hoblas and myself, but it is for everyone who is either listening to us through Zoom and watching the recorded version of the same afterwards. We would be happy to raise any questions coming throughout the session and even after the session is over. We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10 years. These are not my words, but those of Bill Gates. During an interview last year, even Jack Ma told that COVID-19 pandemic has not only changed the trend of technological transformation, but instead has accelerated the pace of change for digital technology. And in just a few months' time, the COVID-19 crisis has brought about years of change in the way companies in all sectors and regions do business. According to a recent survey, the companies have accelerated this digitization of their customer and supply chain interactions and of their internal operations by 3 to 4 years. And the average share of customer interactions has increased from 20% in May 2018 to a historic 58% in July 2020. If I think about this from a student point of view, a lot of things changed for us quite rapidly last year. We had to adjust ourselves in a virtual environment where we are being taught completely on platforms such as Teams and Collaborate. So possibly my first question to you, Nizar, would be that my first question is starting up with getting your views on the rapid digitalization of the environment around us after this pandemic hit the world. How do you think it got accelerated during this pandemic?
Yeah, thanks, Saurabh, for the invitation. I really appreciate inviting me to this podcast. I really commend you for this great podcast sessions, and it's a great way to create awareness, which is something that we're going to touch on during this podcast, hopefully. I always get excited when I'm presented with an opportunity to discuss with students emerging topics such as digital acceleration. So to answer your question on the first topic, you think that when crisis hit, the first thing that organization and companies do is by putting their foot brake on the R&D, research and development, and they start holding their investment into new product portfolio because they want to save money. Fortunately, the nature of this crisis, which is the pandemic that we have faced with the COVID-19, it actually did the reverse of what usually happens in financial crisis or other types of crisis, because the nature of the crisis meant that organizations had to adapt themselves to the new restrictions and the new rules and regulations. And the only way they can adapt and keep surviving is by exploring the enablement from technology solutions that were offered to them. So this pandemic and the nature of restrictions that was put on organizations from as a result of this pandemic meant that technology has presented a good solutions to enable the survival of these companies into the new normal of life. And this is where you see the best of the means justifies the needs, basically. And so when the organizations needs to keep surviving, they have found the way to do that through technological enablement by quite a lot of technology solutions that was presented to them.
But how do you think, Nizar, we can actually tackle this kind of rapid digitalization? I'm just asking you because you already have a lot of experience. You're also teaching business analytics in the business school. And you know how data has completely transformed the picture of various industries. What do you think that this data can eventually be ruling the industry in a couple of years' time? That's what I feel. What do you feel, this kind of data and digital world, is it going to, completely take away the jobs or actually creating new kind of jobs? That's what it says. Like after every industrial age, we always say that there are some new jobs coming up and which are getting replaced by the new ones. What do you think on that?
Yeah, look, I don't pretend to hold a crystal ball to predict the future, and this is a wicked problem of what we're trying to solve. That what the future of work for the future generation. Definitely, transformation in terms of jobs and in terms of how it's impacted by automation and the new digital transformation. Did not impact only, by the way, the jobs of the future, but also impacted our social life and the way how we live. And this transformation is not new and it's not recent. Also, it's been more accelerated by certain events like the COVID-19, but this has been coming a long way. And the ever-increasing capability of technology to collect and transport and show data, which is in terms of the volume of the speed at what data can be collected, the variety of the data that is available, and the quality and type of data. And you've heard about this 4V model from before, for sure. So this does accelerate the way that that transformation happens and impacts on our jobs or job prospects, but also it's impacting on our social life and the way we conduct our everyday activities. I mean, think about what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic and how we transformed in the way we transact with private companies or even with the government. I mean, going to a restaurant, we had to pre-book from before, we had to do the COVID safe app, and we had to find a more innovative way to be able to order our meals from the restaurants rather than going to the restaurant itself. So, but in terms of if you're gonna focus on the jobs itself, it's not about replacing jobs. Of course, automation will change and transform jobs, and rather than some jobs will stop being there, but then some jobs will be created. So it's more like rather than a replacement, more a transformation of jobs. There will be new opportunities created, and there will be new skills that are required.
But what I've read in some of the reports, because as you know that I do a lot of research for any podcast that I'm into. So when I was researching about and looking into some of the reports of Deloitte and other companies, I found out that there are some fears of robot-induced unemployment which are on the rise, as the tasks traditionally which were performed by humans are now increasingly being performed using robots and artificial intelligence. And the declining cost of machines somehow threatens the low-skilled jobs and routine tasks. And indeed, the number of robots operating worldwide is also rising rapidly, because by the end of 2020 itself, it was predicted that there will be 3 million new industrial robots into operation. And one of the examples which was shared by Jack Ma last year was, it usually takes 15 to 20 minutes for a doctor to review a CT images of a suspected COVID-19 patient, but now it only takes 20 seconds for a machine to analyze those CT images, which is 60 times more efficient than the doctors. Even on the academic board, which I'm part of at UNSW, I'm trying to push forward a proposal which makes this component of technology an essential part of the student lives. But digital platforms, they can create entirely new occupation and jobs. So how do you think that the university students, because this podcast is specifically for university students, and the question here is, how do you think that the university students can be better prepared to make themselves job ready, irrespective of their degree? They might be doing arts or laws. What can be some of the skills which will make them future job ready?
I mean, you mentioned a lot of statistics, and they all credible statistics, of course. The best way to tackle ambiguity is by being adaptable. Being having the adaptation necessarily, and always being on the look for upgrading your skills to match the requirements of the industry. So creating awareness around what jobs of the future are, what are the new technological development, but also what skills and talent is required. And what transferable skills can there be? So how can we transfer certain skills rather than completely create new ones? So there will be types of new skills that will be created, but also there will be types of skills that can be transferable from one industry to other industry, or from one domain to another domain. Universities are best at creating this awareness, and are best at also equipping students and a future generation with the knowledge and requirement to keep updating their knowledge with this transformation and this change. And I think the role of the university is becoming more than just an educational platform, into more as a guidance to a future development of the students, in not just their knowledge skills, but also their social skills and their other soft intelligence type of understanding and being aware of their environment, to be able to be always ready and have the thirst of continuous knowledge development.
And also, this is a very common question, Nizar, from students who are not doing degrees which have any link with technology. They keep on asking, how can we better be prepared for that future job market? Because we are not doing any component of technology. So are our degrees going to be replaced, or should we learn something along with our degrees, so that we can also market ourselves in a better way to the employers? Do you think that people who are doing certain kind of degrees, they should upskill themselves by learning some skills? And if so, what do you think can be those skills or courses which they can go for?
Well, thanks for this question. I don't believe that technology will take over the world. this is the thing that no matter what how much advanced technology is, there's always be this human tacit knowledge that machine will never have, or at least until now, machine don't have, and we don't envisage to happen in the foreseeable future. So the soft knowledge, this creativity, the design, and the problem solving are something that are more specific to human beings. And human beings, they don't have to be technologists, or they don't have to be tech savvy to be able to create solutions, or to be able to contribute to the improvement or the betterment of our life. Farmers need to contribute to, for example, if you want to create a robot that does farming, farmers need to contribute to teach the robot how to create farming, how to make what are the needs and requirements for farming to happen. So robot will need to learn from the farmers, and probably by the time the robots will learn from the farmers, the second generation farmers, they already more equipped with the technology knowledge, and they can deal with the presence of robot that will facilitate their work more. I've heard before about a saying that says, if your job is able to be replaced by a machine, then it's not a job worth doing, because then you are doing a machine job. So you'd better do a human making you focus on the things that you can do better, that the machine cannot do, which is creativity, problem solving, and the social interactions. Let's not forget that even with our social interactions are changing with the social media and all this, we still have this emotional attachment to the face-to-face interactions and to the human interactions. And I'm not sure how this will develop in the future, because I belong to the past generation, not to the new generation. So I would like to see how this new generation think about interaction in the real environment rather than just the virtual environment.
I think these were really useful insights, Nizar. I'm sure that these insights and advice will really be helpful to the students who will be listening to you later on as well. But now just moving on to the challenges associated with this digital transformation. So clearly, digital transformation is essential for business survival in a connected world. And according to the 2020 statistics from Gartner, 91% of businesses are engaged in some form of digital initiative, while 87% of senior business leaders say that digitalization is a priority. And what has really been tested in these times is how resilient people are and how resilient those companies are in proactively reacting to the changes happening around them. So resilience has been important. And there have also been a lot of challenges while adopting this digital process. And one of them has definitely been the use of technology to spread misinformation and disinformation. And this can also be linked to the rolling out of the COVID-19 vaccines. So what do you think can be potentially done to tackle this misinformation and disinformation that generally spreads on social media, which we also saw during COVID-19?
Look, misinformation strives where ignorance reigns, So, and the best way to tackle ignorance is by spreading awareness. Now, ignorance itself, no matter how much checks and balances and how much regulations you put to try to regulate the spread of fake news, and I want to use this term, but then there will always be information leakage that comes from a certain angle because of the variety, volume, and veracity of the data that is available today. So, although regulations and checks and balances around data governance and data management are important for security, safety, and privacy reasons, I think raising awareness is the most effective way. So when information is received by an individual, they should not just take it at face value. They should have the sense of curiosity, of investigating, of looking at different news from a different source, from a different angle, and use a sense of judgment. By simply regulating the flow of information, I would say who gets to say what needs to be out and what needs to be in. Because even different people see things differently. What is good, what is right for some is wrong for others. So that's why equip people with awareness about the environment, and let them have the information that they need to make their own judgment, and then they can do their own research and their own checks and balances on what data do they need to accept and what data they need to reject. At the end of the day, don't let someone else make the decision for you. Make your own decision.
That's pretty true, Nizar, because I also feel that a lot of the times when we are listening to the news, it's more opinion oriented rather than fact oriented nowadays, because a lot of the things are opinions of some people being posted rather than the actual facts of that news. And those opinionated news try to influence you in a particular direction. Maybe it can be in politics or it can be for any other purpose. So they try to put a particular opinion on your mind in such a way that you get influenced. I totally agree with you on that part. But now moving to the next question here. So companies that fared better in the pandemic, they had a few consistent attributes, such as they were prepared better with the technology, they had improved cyber security. But while today's digital transformation of 2021 certainly look different than those of a decade ago, one significant challenge really remains consistent, which is getting employees to buy in and adapt to the new technological solution. So, because humans are naturally conditioned to want to fall into routines and rely on tried and tested solutions. So, is there any way through which companies can be better prepared to assist their employees to adapt themselves with this rapidly evolving technological environment? I'm sure this is going to be a big question for anybody who also wants to become an entrepreneur in the near future and take new employees. How can they prepare their employees for new technologies?
Absolutely, and then you've already answered the question, by the way. So the question is more about innovation, and this is a wicked problem. How to get innovation in existing companies, in big companies, if you are working for a corporate, for example. You can read Christensen's book about the innovator dilemma, and then you'll get probably, for sure, much more information than one I will give you here. But for innovation to get through an organization, it requires quite a lot of effort, top down and bottom up. So leadership has to be very well accepting to the fact that they need to strive through innovation, but also employees need to be quite well adapted to the fact that they need to move out of their comfort zone. So you cannot force innovation on employees if they are not willing to move out of their comfort zone. At the same time, employees cannot innovate if they are restricted by certain rules and regulations that force them to always do a certain procedures in a certain way. So I would say that for innovation to happen, you need both bottom up and top down approaches. Now, the other thing that you touched on, which is very important, is that having this always sense of risk and innovation and try your own thing. So if you find yourself very restricted in a certain organization where you cannot perform your creativity and innovate, then probably you need to start taking the risk and take the entrepreneurial journey, which is not in any way easy. It's difficult, but when it's successful, it's pretty rewarding. So in terms of moving from a routine job, the employees themselves need to be prepared to take this risk, and need to be prepared to be able to change from the comfort zone to a roller coaster type of challenge, where there's quite a lot of ambiguity and facing things that are not, you cannot plan. Quite a lot of risk mitigation and quite a lot of facing the risks, because you cannot, no matter how much you plan for risks, you cannot always envisage all the risks that you can see. And I go back to then my first note about being adaptable. So always have the skills of being adapted to the new way of working, and face challenges as they come, and find a way to always innovate and become a new individual with a new way of thinking, because you cannot solve the problem of the future with the thinking of the past.
I think that's totally correct, Nizar. And it was quite useful, because I think both the employees and the employers, that's what you are saying, need to be better prepared in terms of facing the future world. It's not only the employers who are training with the new skills, it's also need to be from the other side, that the employees are proactive in being prepared with the new skills, the new technological skills, the new soft skills. As you previously pointed out, that it's not only technology which will dominate the world. These key soft skills and the transferable skills are also very important in that future world. Now, I was also going through another Forbes article, which came up with some interesting analysis. And it said that even as economies slowly reopen after the pandemic and employees are finally allowed to return to work, employees and the companies will continue to be tasked with protecting the employees from possible outbreak resurgences. And many big technological companies like Google and Facebook have already extended their work from home policies through, or for parts of 2021. And another unintended consequence of this will be population migration. So as more people work from home and are enabled to do so on a continuous basis, we will likely see the migration happening from larger cities to more cost of living friendly cities. And this migration will eventually drive greater investment in connectivity in suburban and rural areas, which will enable even greater productivity in these less densely populated communities. So what do you think about this particular situation?
I mean, you've given a very interesting perspective here, Saurabh, which goes against all the discussion that has been happening around accelerated urbanization and rapid urbanization, which is very interesting because it goes completely the other way. Because this rapid urbanization and accelerated concentration of people in urban centers was a global challenge recognized by the United Nations. If you go to the SDG goal 11, which is smarter cities and communities, was actually as a solution to this accelerated urbanization, which is putting quite a lot of pressure on the infrastructure and services and the quality of services received by people concentrated in urban centers. Now, the point is that digitization will make decentralization of services is to some extent plausible, although I don't think it will have this bigger impact to drive people migration out of the urban centers. So in the reverse of urbanization, otherwise we will not have the problem of the accelerated urbanization anymore. This simply is because look at the case example of Australia, for example, and the NBN case, rolling NBN services. In a bigger rugged space like in Australia, you cannot roll out services to regional communities because the business case does not stack up. And at the end of the day, these are businesses. They want to look after their business case and not about the higher social fairness, which is because this is creating quite a lot of digital divide, isn't it? So at some point of time, when everything moves to digital, people in rural and marginal places, they will not be able to use the digital services anymore because they don't have the proper connectivity that is required for that. I mean, think about the future with telehealth, education, and everything that is virtual. These people will be very limited, either by, even if they have connectivity, they will probably have poorer quality in their connectivity. Now, on the flip side, and this is something of part of my research, that mobile technologies seem to be mitigating this challenge, basically, because mobile technology can spread wider and far more efficiently than fixed technologies like fiber and coax and all these other technologies. And with the infiltration of the 5G technology and the creation of larger bandwidth and higher speeds and lower latencies, then there will be more applications that will be enabled in far more remote places than what we have today. That's why this misinformation about 5G is something that is really putting a stick in the wheel, basically, by stopping the progress to reducing a problem like digital divide that we are suffering from. So going back to the initial question, the technology enhancement and improvement probably is not going to gain enough momentum to decentralize the services in the way we hope to, that will become more, we have more services, or we have the same services and rural services than we have in the city centers, but at least it will balance the spread of concentration of services and how much it will impact on the provision of services in certain areas.
So just to continue the discussion, because I also want our participants on Zoom to ask you different questions, I now give an opportunity to the Zoom participants, Aditya and Ziao, to switch on the videos. That will be great. And also, if they have got any questions, you can direct them to the speaker directly through audio. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, hi Saurabh. So no questions from my side.
Okay. Okay. So I don't see many questions coming forward as of now, Nizar. But what I was thinking in my mind while you were saying the last question, and also throughout the discussion, from the student perspective, what do you really think can be the next steps for the students in the coming era? You have already touched upon that briefly. But if we can just elaborate a bit more as to what can be the top 3 or 4 skills that they can learn, or probably be more specifically, if they are doing a particular degree, what can be the things that they can do immediately, before all the things eventually open up?
I mean, like we said, we discussed before, the new skills don't have to be very heavy technology oriented, but then technology is infiltrating everything. So everything that you do, you'll see, even if you're learning arts and degrees, you will be using a part of technology in your art and science degree. So being more technology savvy is something that will help, because this means that when digital disruption comes and infiltrate the domain that you are working in, you'll be more ready to assimilate this technology and use it to your advantage rather than having it disrupting your work. Awareness is something that we said that it needs to always be there. So be aware of how technology is coming from, where is it coming, and to solve what needs that you have. because you actually, at the end of the day, you want technology to help you with your efficiency, with efficiency of your work. So you can focus more on the things that we said you can do better than technology can do, which is your creativity and your problem solving and your social skills. These are things that will not be replaced by technology, not in the foreseeable terms. So use technology to do the mandate and the routine tasks, and then focus on the other ones. So be prepared for that from beforehand. So if you see yourself doing quite a lot of routine tasks that are susceptible to automation, I think it's about time where you start divesting from this and think how technology will be used to automate these tasks, and then focus on the other elements. One thing I said earlier, and you touched on, by orienting people to be more entrepreneurs. I mean, there is a risk, definitely, but then entrepreneurship and innovation is something that is most likely going to strive with a digital economy and with digitalization coming into place. So it's not easy. It's not going to be easy, but it's one way that people can try and experiment with. And when you experiment with being an entrepreneur, it's not like the end of the world if you fail, because you can try and fail and try and fail, and then if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. You always have another way to do other jobs. But then have a try, have a go at being an entrepreneur, have a go at creating solutions and creating ideas. But also, when I'm referring you to become an entrepreneur and innovator, you don't do it just because you like to do it or because you are forced to do it. You do it because there's a need for it. So look at the needs that are arising. That's why you need to have a good observational skills and a lot of patience with how you're gonna create a new solution that is derived from the needs of the customers that you are serving.
I think brilliant insights, Nizar. For me personally, and I think for a lot of students who are currently listening to you on Zoom or might be listening to your recorded session, some of the key takeaways can be that to get ready, to get rid of your routine tasks. So if you identify that you are into a lot of routine tasks, it's time for you to get ready and move towards some sort of new skills, developing some new skills which can help you to bring automation in the task that you are doing. Another one that you pointed out is that both the employees and the employers need to be ready for the future world. It's not only about the employers training the new employees, but it's also about the employees being more proactive in their approach. That was definitely a key insight from this session. And another one, which was that technology will not be dominating the completely the world, and it will be those transferable soft skills which will come handy for various degrees. And so the students need to focus not only to develop the technological skills, but also some key soft skills such as communication or leadership, which I'm sure UNSW students are into through their club activities and participation of various societies.
All right. So I have a question as a young aspiring entrepreneur. So I would like to know that apart from the basic things that we have to do in order to start our business or anything, so what is that one thing or one extra thing that we have to, be prepared for post this pandemic? Like that one thing that is going to be different, which was not earlier, like before this pandemic. So what is that one extra thing that we are supposed to be prepared for, like according to you?
You make it very challenging. One extra thing. So thanks, Aditya, for your question. That's a very important question. It's not only about the one extra thing, but if you're insisting on a one extra thing, I would say the one extra thing is that being vigilant and aware. This is the most important part of because what I'm trying to say is that don't just wait for the opportunity to become available to seize it, but create the opportunity yourself. And for you to create the opportunity, you have to be vigilant and you have to be aware and you have to be observant. And being vigilant and aware and observant does not always require how tech savvy you are, or how much do you know about coding, and how much do you know about analysis of or programming or technological advances, but more about having this sensing skills of emotional intelligence, of requirements for to solve problems, problem solving, and critical thinking analysis. So these are key areas for entrepreneurs that they need to develop. So it's not only one thing, but it's a combination of things that if they are combined together, they will make this one big thing that will make a difference in your entrepreneurial journey.
All right, that answers my question. Thank you so much.
No worries, thank you.
Feel free to ask if you have got any questions, because we have got some extra time and we can definitely take some more questions if you have, Aditya or Zia.
Yeah, no more questions from my side. That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So I think the last point that you discussed about was the opportunity, that be more proactive in capturing those opportunities, which is so important in today's world, that we sometimes just miss out on an opportunity, and then we realize after some time that if we had captured that opportunity, be it starting your own business or be it a job opportunity, then we feel regretful about that after some point of time when we see that somebody else has taken that opportunity, because then there are feelings of some negative feelings, and which should not be there, because you were the reason you only missed that opportunity. And that's why we say that you are the only competition you have. You're not competing with others, you are basically competing with yourself to grab that opportunity at the right time.
Yeah, but it's not only sorry, it's not only about seizing opportunity, but it's also about creating opportunity. So don't wait for the opportunity to become available for you to seize it. You create your own opportunity, and the best way to create your own opportunity is by having this extra sensing capability to sense needs, to sense requirements, to sense the environment around you. And sometimes you create a certain solution and you don't find enough adoption for it, and you get frustrated. But then it's probably not that the solution is not a great solution, is that you did not really put it in the proper gift wrap. So you did not wrap it properly to present it to your audience, and you did not show its value creation for them from their own needs. Because sometimes people have wants and have needs, and the gap between wants and needs is great sometimes. So you need to close this gap and show them that what they want is actually not what they need. So they need to close this gap, and you are presenting them with what they need, not exactly what they want. Because otherwise they will reject your solution if it's not what they want, although it's what they need.
Yeah, pretty insightful, Nizar. And I think that's what we do in marketing, sales, and these kind of jobs as well, when we have to understand the customer need in the right manner. Once we understand the need of the customer, we can then exactly identify where we are going wrong in selling a product. So just taking an example from what you said. I think it was really insightful. The discussions were really useful for the students. And potentially with this, we come to an end to our third PGC Weekly Podcast. And we would like to thank Mr. Nizar Hoblas for taking his valuable time to join us for this podcast, and also to everyone who has joined us today through Zoom or listening to the recorded version of the same afterwards. We really hope to see you at the same time next week with a new topic and a new speaker, and with more insightful discussion ahead. But till then, it's goodbye from my side, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Saurabh, and thank you everyone for the opportunity. Thank you.